Noise, yeah, the mess we make. Machine Pun Kelly get caught in the play. Facts and logic with a twist of chest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Humor propose the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity where they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steam Pun Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts flow.
Hello, and welcome to the Pun Show. Hope you are having a marvelous and wonderful day. I hope everything is splendid and glorious with you, unless your name is Donald Trump. So we got a few things in the news today. So Plattner is officially off the ballot, which is good. I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on with the replacement. One thing I'd like to just address about this whole Plattner thing is the people who put him on the ballot were not the Democrat, whatever that's supposed to mean. It's not like there was some private committee that got together and decided to elect Plattner. The people who put Plattner on the ballot were the voters, right? And the reason Plattner is off the ballot is not the Democratic Party. The reason Plattner is off the ballot is he was credibly accused of raping a woman 5 years ago. All right. Plattner is the reason Plattner was on the ballot, and Plattner is the reason Plattner is off the ballot. Plattner is the one that got voters energized and out there knocking on doors. And Plattner's the one that, if you read the report, in all likelihood, raped someone. So let's not make this about anything other than Plattner. It's 100% about Plattner. And if you don't watch Lawrence O'Donnell, he did a segment on Plattner the night before last. It really shows how Plattner has misrepresented himself and his kind of grassroots origins and stuff. We don't need to go into all that because he's not on the ballot anymore. I just want to, make it clear that this is not like some sort of the system type thing, the way that he tried to make it, right? If the system were against him, he wouldn't have won. He won because the system allowed him to win. There's all the, there's always like a search for something nefarious by the people that defend the worst actions of people. All right. The Democratic Party wasn't against Plattner for some sort of ideological reason. They never, it's just silliness. And you got Republicans that are coming out. Hey, Vin Attack, what's up? How you doing? So you got Republicans that are like sitting there acting like for some reason that the Democrats, like I've seen both sides of it, right? Well, the Democrats were willing to let a rapist run until it turned out that he wasn't doing as well, right? And then so there's this double standard idea. And you get the Butt Clinton crowd. And you get all this stuff to muddy the waters, all right? And part of me wants to go down every single butt, but I don't want to go down every butt because the butts don't matter. Plattner is credibly accused with rape, so Plattner is not on the ballot anymore. The Democrats didn't want to run a rapist. The Republicans are fine running rapists, right? They're sitting there, they talk about, oh, we separate ourselves from them. And, look at Matt Gaetz. And it's like, you let Matt Gaetz run on the ballot while you investigated him for 2 years. Then when he resigned, you wouldn't release the report, because what was in that report, we still don't know. But apparently it was so bad, you never wanted anybody to know what's in it, which is why we don't know. So you can just shut your silly little mouths about how you don't have a double standard. You have a president in the United States that is an adjudicated sexual assaultist. Like, there's no question about that. A jury heard the evidence, and a jury found beyond the preponderance of the evidence that he was liable for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. And you still voted for him. He has 25 other accusations against him. His own wife accused him of rape. Susan Collins voted for Brett Kavanaugh. And we watched his accuser give a testimony that was extremely credible, just as credible as that one against Plattner. And she voted to put him on the Supreme Court. And while on the Supreme Court, he voted to overturn the rights of abortion, of women that are raped to get an abortion. So the rapist is okay with forcing women to bear rape babies. And your candidate is okay with that. But you're going to sit there and try to play the high card right now? Sorry, you can sit down on that. What about Roy Moore? He was a pedophile. You've got half of the Trump cabinet hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. But now you're going to sit there and because the Democrats actually removed two predators now, Eric Swalwell and Greg Plattner, actually didn't back their sexual predator candidates. You're going to play the card that you're the ones that separate yourselves from the sexual deviants, because after 2 years of Matt Gaetz investigations into trafficking minors for sex, you had so much evidence on him that you couldn't even release it. And now you're going to sit there and act like you've got the moral high ground? No, you can sit down, Republicans. Just sit all the way down. All right, got some comments here. What are you teaching? I just came. Please explain. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just getting going here. Right now, we're just talking about the Plattner thing. Keyword, credibly. There was no evidence. I think I think it's very credible. And there was one of the things I look for when it comes to things like this is, are there contemporaneous events? Like, did they tell people at the time what had happened to them? Are there other people that can corroborate from before that it happened? And in this story from Politico, that woman is. Now, I think there's some confusion. There are two different women that have made different types of allegations against Plattner. The ones in Politico are new. There were initial allegations against Plattner that were much more subdued. There was, he grabbed her by the wrist and pulled her out of a cab, and he grabbed her hard enough to leave a bruise on her wrist. And he blocked the door and kept her from leaving a room one time while they were having a fight. That was, and so she said he was abusive, and that was the evidence of abuse. She never accused him of rape. The new allegations are rape allegations, and there is contemporaneous people that she told that have said that she told them. So There's definitely more evidence. So I think that these new evidence, this new stuff is credible. Bernie Sanders thinks it's credible. Like people that really wanted to believe in him and endorsed him from the beginning have said, no, this looks credible, and have withdrawn their endorsements. So I don't agree that there was no evidence. And ideologically, I'm more aligned with what Plattner ran on. I am not against Plattner ideologically. I'm against rapists in general. Buddy is so full of beans, we started calling him Billy Beans. Who is that? Abortion was never a right in the Constitution. Yes, it is. It's right there in the 9th Amendment, where it says that the rights not specifically enumerated still exist. And it's always been considered a right to privacy, up until this court just decided you don't have a right to privacy. According to you, there's no such thing as a right to privacy. So as far as you're concerned, things like the HIPAA Act are unconstitutional. To you, there's no right to privacy, right? To you, that means that the government can come and put a camera in your bedroom and watch what goes on, because you don't have a constitutional right to privacy. According to you, the government can make it illegal for a white man to marry a black woman, because that is the same right that protects the right to abortion. It's a right to privacy. It means that the government can't sit there and monitor the fine-tuning things in your life and decide what's going on. You have a private life, which you are allowed to live on your own private terms. And the government can't supersede those things. The government can't make laws which doesn't affect other people. So, yeah, according to you, there's no right to privacy. But according to the Constitution, the 9th Amendment still exists. And just because it isn't specifically spelled out doesn't mean it's not in there. That's why we have the 9th Amendment. That's why it says, just because there's something in here doesn't mean it's not a right. Abortion is a right, bro. Following culture, the news, or politics is neurotic, said the person coming on a political stream. No, I would say what's neurotic is going around to different streams telling people that they shouldn't have those streams because you're against those kinds of streams. That to me is neurotic. But you have your definition. I have mine. Everybody gets to live their own life. You're free to go do a different stream. I am not compelling you to be here. More abortions are taking place after Roe versus Wade was taken down. Right-wingers lost again. This is... So when I first started dating my wife, she was actually a Republican. She was a pro-life Republican. And she asked me how I could be a Democrat if I was pro-choice. And I asked her, is your, like if you're pro-life, you believe an infant, like the fetus is alive, right? Like, and you think that the woman should have the baby. And she's like, yes. And I said, well, okay. Is your goal to have fewer abortions, or is your goal to make abortion illegal? Like, if you make abortion illegal, it doesn't mean people aren't going to get abortions, right? But if you can have fewer abortions without making abortion illegal, wouldn't that be your preferred outcome? And she thought about it, and she's like, I never thought of it that way, but how would that happen? And so then I explained to her, this was back before, the gradual erosion of all the abortion clinics in the country and stuff, back in, like 98. And at the time, there was a direct correlation between the poverty line and the number of abortions. It's like the more wealth the, people had, the less likely they were to get an abortion. The number one reason people get abortions is money. And so if you can make it affordable for women to have babies, They're more likely to. And there are legitimate reasons beyond money and beyond, the health of the mother or whatever that women get abortions. But anyway, I pointed out to her that there were fewer abortions under Democratic presidents than under Republican presidents for that very reason. And she changed her mind. That's all it took. My wife's a reasonable woman. She's actually now at least as liberal as I am. That makes a difference, right? Like if you're pro-life, be pro-life. I don't have a problem with people being pro-life. But if you're pro-life, at least be pro-life. Don't be anti-abortion. There's a difference. Like if you're pro-life, like and then if life begins at conception, life doesn't end at birth. Like be pro-life after birth also. Be pro-life for the life of the child. Be pro-life while that baby is a child. Be pro-life when it comes to that baby getting health care, when that comes to that baby getting food, to that baby being able to go to school and learn a vocation, and even go to college if they have that ability, and go to grad school if they have that ability, and have freedom to live their life the way they want to. Don't be pro, forced birth. Be pro voluntary birth, and be pro life for the life of the child, not just the conception of it. That's my view. So he says more abortions are taking place after Roe versus Wade was taken down. Right wingers lost again. I can't validate that either way, but I think the point stands. If you're pro-life, be pro-life. Just don't be pro forced birth. But there should be a limit to abortion. Like 5 months is crazy. Okay. Here's the thing that most of the people that say stuff like this don't actually know what the actual numbers are. And the pro-life community actually tells a lot of lies too, okay? There are about 98% of abortions occur before 20 weeks, all right? So only 2% occur after 20 weeks. Then 98% of that 2% occur between 21 weeks and 23 weeks, all right? Only a very, very small number, like in the hundreds a year, occur after 23 weeks. And there's reasons for that. Those are almost exclusively because of the life of the mother and the baby. Like the baby will die, and in the baby dying, the mother will die also. There's our extremely rare conditions where the baby will just like be technically survive, but like be a vegetable for their entire life that's going to last for like a few years, and the mother entire life will be just taking care of that baby that has no cognitive function. These are babies that like and the right tries to make it sound like they're killing these babies and stuff and doing stuff, and it's like they don't have lungs. Like these are not, they got blue eyes instead of green eyes. No, these are children that are not viable. They have no chance at living an actual life. They're not like mentally handicapped. They don't have brains. So sometimes they can be born and they'll survive like 5 minutes, and then they'll die in the mother's arms. And, there's no reason to put the child or the mother through that. But you've got people that want to force that kind of gross medical conduct on the medical community that doesn't want it. So there should be you don't find, and it's not just abortion clinics or whatever, you don't find people that want to go out there and murder viable babies. Abortion doctors do not perform abortions on viable babies. And that is the current standard, or what was the standard. Is the baby viable? Will it live outside the mother's womb? And I've interviewed abortion providers on this show. And it's not just them. They say it's not just them that won't do it. A procedure like that, you need certain equipment. Only 5 facilities in the country even have the equipment. You need the anesthesiologist, you need the nurses, you need the other people, the support staff for the procedure. You're not going to get, like people willing to do that to murder viable infants. So my recommendation to you is, if you're concerned about what the limits are, actually look into it and just don't read pro-life propaganda. The pro-life community as a whole lies a lot. There are a lot of lies. Need freedom. I'm back. Hey, I didn't know you were gone. Are you pro-MAGA? I am not pro-MAGA. I can say that with considerable confidence, as can people who have watched the show before, like Revival. How you doing, Revival? What do you mean he's not available for comment? I just talked to him yesterday. But he's actually filibustering his own death. America demands a cloture vote. We all need cloture. For 17, what? For 17 minutes, were you wearing a green shirt too? I missed something. Need legal abortion, otherwise misusing Publis's. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means, Shy. You need legal abortion, otherwise misusing Publix, especially teenager. It's serious matter. I don't know what you're trying to say. It looks like it might have been one of those text-to-speech things that got lost, or speech-to-text things got lost in the text part. Howdy, Brett. Brett says, so yeah, all right. MAGA don't really care about abortion. Otherwise, they would want the child to have health care, food, and housing, which they cancel. Right. That's what I mean when I say, if you're going to be pro-life, be pro-life. Give mothers, like, if you have a mother with a child that she doesn't necessarily want, and you got, like these communities where it's like, oh, yes, we'll adopt a baby and all this stuff, but only certain babies, and you have to like move into this cult. Forget that. If you want the mother to have the baby, provide the means for the mother to have the baby without having the rest of her life destroyed. The other thing, I had a show back when I first started the Punch Show. I had a panel on of women that had gotten abortions like decades ago, and now they have families and everything. And there was one woman that she had behind her, was a like a montage photo, whatever they call those things, with like all kinds of family pictures and everything on there. And I was noticing that and considering the irony of the fact that, she had aborted her first child. And so I mentioned it to her, like, behind you, is that your family? And she said, yes. And three of the women, their stories were very similar. And it's not something I had ever thought of before. The father of their baby was abusive, and they were trying to leave the relationship. And the reason they wanted to get an abortion is because if they had the baby, that meant that man would have a justification to be in their life and the child's life for the rest of their lives. And they didn't want that. They didn't want that for themselves. They didn't want that for the child they might have. And so then the best solution was to get an abortion. And whether you agree with that or not is kind of moot because it's their decision to make. And it's not just a decision about getting an abortion. It's a decision about whether or not this predator is going to be a permanent part of their life. I think that, and that, as a man, is not an aspect that I had ever considered before. But when I heard 3 out of 4 women state that as the primary reason they got one, it really made me think that, hey, if you're not a woman, just shut up. You have no voice in this. I am so tired of this. Like, when I was a young, stupid kid, I thought that it would be a great idea to say, like, if a man that says that he'll pay for the baby, he'll pay for all the medical costs and he'll, agree to take care of the baby, then he should be able to have a say too. I wish I could go back and slap myself for thinking something so stupid. What if that father is an abusive person and the mother doesn't want their child to grow up with an abusive father so that they can become an abusive father too? It's not our decision, man. It's not. And I know that you've got things to say, that you have your really strong opinions on it. I don't care. The only people that have a say in whether or not they get an abortion are the women who have that child, period. End of story. I thought we were talking about Mitch. We were going to, and then we somehow got derailed. But yeah, we're going to talk about Mitch in a minute. I tried to call Mitch, but he wasn't available for comment. Get it? He wasn't available for comment. Like, he really wasn't available for comment. Not to change the subject, but I'm here and we're at 19 million barrels rock bottom. Are you talking about oil or something? I look like Lula. I don't know who Lula is. I'm assuming that is an insult. Revival Natural, I thought so too. All right, I'm off grid, semi-rustic, and usually just walk places so the fuel issues don't affect me to the extent they don't do most people, but I've been tracking it. Wow. I looked and the price of oil was actually going down today. But yeah, we bombed the crap out of Iran again. And there was that whole embarrassment. Actually, right now, I think it's probably a contest between Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump over who is more brain dead. Isn't that part of life, coming in, coming out? Well, not if you're a Republican. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye. I say hello. Had to do that. I don't know if you meant it that way. Thanks for enlightening me. How can we solve? I think that the way we solve this is to you don't really need to incentivize women to have a baby, right? This is, like yesterday I talked about, we need to have solution-oriented conversations. It's like, if you want to reduce the number of abortions, then make it so that women want to have the baby instead of having an abortion. And so give them, first of all, don't make it like something that having that child is going to derail the rest of their life. Provide means for them to be able to still afford to go to college if they want and become something, and make it a way so that they aren't like living in poverty with their child. If you want women to want to have babies, give them a reason to want to. Scott Jennings claimed he talked to Mitch McConnell for 17 minutes. It's such a lie because he named a specific time. MAGA sucks at lives. Scott Jennings. How does CNN like still put him on the air? Like, do they not know what an embarrassment he is? He says some of the most ridiculous things. And that one is up there. Approximately. Could have been 15 minutes and 48 seconds. Could have been 18 minutes and 13 seconds. But ballpark 17 minutes. Oh, I spoke to Mitt for 17 minutes. I was wearing a green shirt. Oh, that's what the green shirt. Oh my goodness. Did he say that? That's I mean, how can you argue with it if you are wearing a green shirt? If you remember what color shirt you are wearing, you can't possibly be making it up. I mean, I personally, when I call somebody on the phone, I'm very conscious about what I'm wearing because I don't want to look bad. I always precisely time my phone calls and make sure that I write in my journal what I wore for it. I write down the time every time to speak to someone. So what do you guys think? Is Mitch McConnell alive? Is he dead, or is he sort of in between? I heard yesterday that Donald Trump had dinner with him because his doctor told him he should have vegetables with his dinner. I'm here all night. And maybe make sure to include unnecessary details when telling people about it. Nothing to see here. Where is that in your communities? Where is what in my communities? I don't understand your question, Shay. I'm going to be amused when he reads this part of the chat. There you go. You can be amused now. Some decisions, like medical decisions, all of them should be made between a doctor and their patient. Right. Like all medical decisions. It's funny how, well, with one exception, vaccines. Because then it's other people's lives are also at stake. People act like vaccine mandates are some sort of like massive government overreach when we had them like throughout the entire history of our country. Even before there was a country, there was a vaccine mandate. We wouldn't have a country if there wasn't a vaccine mandate. Before there were vaccines, there was a vaccine mandate. Can't remember what it's called. There was a different word that vaccines are based on technology that existed beforehand. What was it called? It's air something. Hang on. I'll you would breathe in variolation. That's what it was called. Like before we had vaccines, there was something called variolation, and this is the technology that is established from vaccines. And the variolation actually goes back thousands of years. They did it in China, they did it in Africa, they did it in South America. Like basically everywhere. Europe was the last place to catch on to this. And what it was is they would take the smallpox sores, and if there was somebody that had a mild infection, a mild smallpox infection, they would dry the pus or whatever from inside those sores, and then they would make it into a powder, and then they would inhale that powder. And there was like, when they did that, they would get some of the they would get some of the disease, and they'd get some of the immunity from the person that was getting over the smallpox. And so then they would develop their own immunity from that, and it was called variolation. And people would die from that. Like it was like about 2% would die from variolation, but like 20 or 30% would die from smallpox, and it would like wipe out entire communities. So if you only will lose 2%, you're doing a lot better. So they did that. It goes back to like China, I think, and Africa. And so what happened in America is and this is one of those weird things from history that you just don't see coming. There was a slave that was like, this is what we used to do in Africa to take care of that. And so there was a guy, it was actually a witch hunter. It's like a middle-aged witch hunter that was like connected to the Salem witch trials and stuff. I think he was the one that oversaw, the same guy that oversaw the Salem witch trials also brought us vaccines, if you want to believe that. Anyway, he's like, well, that's neat. And so then they started bringing variolation into the United States, and that's how George Washington knew about it. So it's like slaves actually gave us vaccinations, if you didn't know that. I think that's kind of crazy. And so then Washington had the first vaccine mandate, which was actually a variolation mandate for the troops. And because smallpox had been more prevalent in England, the English troops were actually, most of them had already been infected. So they didn't have the same problems as the American troops did. They weren't susceptible. And if it weren't for that, there is a very good chance we would have lost the revolution. So it's almost like we owe the existence of the country to vaccines. There's probably some sort of alternative history, alternative timeline where we didn't vaccinate the troops and we lost. What if he's a good man? Well, you're talking about going back to the abortion. Well, if the woman feels he's a good man, then she's free to do what she wants. Brother, it's a public channel. Respect your viewers, otherwise make it private. Somebody asking any question, you'd answer properly. That's what I'm doing, Shai. I'm not disrespecting anybody's. But I would also say that since it's a public channel, anybody that's asking questions should also be respectful, not only of me, but also of the other viewers. I don't know what you think I did that's not respectful. What if someone who knows him judges what kind of man he is? Right. Shouldn't the woman that's having the man's baby be the one that gets to determine whether or not, she wants to have him in her life for the rest of her life? Oil prices are only coming down due to opium. Yeah, I think we do that like with the stock market too. There is this kind of like belief system operating. Oil prices are not based on what is happening right now. Oil prices are based on what people think will happen in the future. These are futures. So they think that whatever magic trick will happen and, all of this will magically go away. Brett Wood is correct. I agree. Skip is correct that Brett is correct. Crack spread hitting a record high of 64.58 per barrel. I don't know what crack spread is. I think he's having trouble understanding what you're writing. I'm not sure if you're using a translator or maybe this. Yeah, I'm sometimes it's hard to actually understand what the comment is. If you think that, like, I wasn't insulting you. I just literally have no idea what you were trying to say. I tried to derive it. Sometimes people use speech to text, but then the text doesn't come out reading right. And so I'm assuming that's what happened with you, that the comment that I read was not the comment that you said. So I'm just asking for clarification. Mitch is Mitch, a Galapagos tortoise. Feel like there's a country music song there. No disrespect or anything. Huge respect from me for anybody able to speak multiple languages, by the way. Right. I like to say I'm trilingual. I'm still trying to learn one language. When they said stop taking Tylenol, I actually bought a bottle. RFK Jr. still making medical decisions while he's playing with raccoon roadkill penises. I might have one night now just for fun. Oh yeah, go ahead. I took a couple right before the show because you never know when you're going to need one. You little troublemaker, you. I'm an animal you can't control. Roar, hear me roar. I will tell you one advice in my side need awareness, school guidance globally. I will tell you one advice. Okay, I'll give you a piece of advice. We need awareness globally. What kind of awareness of what? I guess that's what I'm wondering. What do you think we need to make people aware of? Tariff price. Oh, back to your mode price. $2.99 final price after tariffs. Drum roll. $554.97. Thank you, Donald Trump. We also owe but affordability is a scam, Brett. It's all something made up by the liberals. We also that extra 200 or the extra $254 you paid, you can just blame the liberals on that for that because they made it up. We also see the history that this country to beer would never have made it without cholera, dysentery, and typhoid fever. Yeah, it's actually right. If you've ever, like, I've studied fermenting as I've been getting into fermenting and stuff. And fermenting before there were refrigerators, the best way to preserve food was fermenting. And so, and spoiled food led to things like cholera and dysentery and typhoid. And so, learning to ferment foods, including grains from which we get beer and whiskey, is all a result of just fermenting foods. I wonder how much knowledge was snuffed out in early America between slavery and everyone that was fine to the First Nations people. Yeah, that's actually, I hadn't thought about that. But I wonder what, like they say that, the Africans, were just out there with no knowledge. And it's like, no, we have no knowledge of what the Africans had knowledge of. We never bothered thinking that they might know something we don't know. Because of the Africans, we now have vaccines. Read all messages right time. I read all the messages in order. Sometimes YouTube filters some out. I don't have any control over that. I'm on Restream, which is a separate app. And so as they come to me, I read them exactly what they say, and I try to respond in good faith to each one. MAGA loves pedophiles, criminals, racists, rapists, traitors, terrorists, Nazi, and sex offenders. Well, what about the ones that aren't Donald Trump? Doesn't he check off all those boxes? Okay, pedophile, yep. Criminal, yep. Convicted felon, racist, definitely. Posting pictures of Obama as an ape. Rapist, adjudicated. Traitors, January 6th. Terrorists, what ICE is doing right now. Nazis, quotes Hitler, and sex offenders. So yeah, that's now that covers Trump. Now what about the rest of them? YouTube flagged that comment for review, but I'm going to let it go. Hey, they shouldn't flag it for, if maybe they flagged it because it's true. And there we go, Brett. We're on the same page. We're all on the same page here. So speaking of all that, I was saying, like this performance by Trump, yes, while he was with the NATO, he called Zelensky President Putin. He called Japan the Islamic Republic of Japan. He lied about the whole airplane thing. There was some other stuff that were just like, what was his brain is mush. I was thinking, can you imagine if Joe Biden had referred to the Islamic Republic of Japan while he was meeting with NATO and then called Zelensky Putin? Like, do you think the Republican media might have a thing or two to say about that? Like, I'm not saying this as like just in a partisan attack or because I've got TDS. Donald Trump, that ship has sailed. He's like 2 ports away from Mitch McConnell right now. He is not all there. The marbles are not in the jar. The potatoes are mashed. Like, Elvis is not in the building. He is not there anymore. Nobody is. There are no residents in his head. People are like, oh, Obama's living rent-free in his head. No, nobody's living in his head. It's vacant. It's vacant. There's nobody there. And it's like, I worry. The problem with the 25th Amendment is that you replace him with J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance is out there talking about, fraud and how we're going to, the Democrats want you to vote for fraudsters, while Donald Trump is sitting there raking in billions of dollars off of people that, off his sold pardons. During the first 10 minutes, every other comment was held for review, and wowza, they were vile. Oh, wow. I didn't even know there were comments to be held. I guess what were they about the abortion topic? You can't speak the truth. Do you mean I can't speak the truth? Or are you saying that people who do speak the truth get their comments filtered? I think you mean the people who do. Yeah. So Islamic Republic of, can you imagine if Obama had referred to the Islamic Republic of Japan? I had a guy from Japan message me on Twitter, and he's just like, I live in Japan, and I did not know that we were an Islamic Republic. I did see him try to backpedal and say that he was oh yeah, so he did the thing with where he's like, what do you like, he says something about, does anybody have any questions for Putin, for President Putin? And he's like motioning his hand towards Zelensky, and he's like, does anybody have any questions? He hears some people start to this smattering of laughter, and so he's like, oh, because I'm going to speak to Putin, and so I can relay your questions to him. Like he's like Putin's press secretary all of a sudden. It's like, yeah, we saw, yeah, that's what you meant. Like, just say, I misspoke. Sorry, Zelensky. Mitch must have told him that, Brett. Every CNN, even CNN, didn't say poop about it. The same CNN that went on and on about whether or not Joe Biden was all there. Joe Biden never said. Joe Biden fell off a bicycle. At least that means he was able to ride the bike to the point where he fell off of it. I can't even imagine Donald Trump sitting on a bicycle. Can you imagine Donald Trump trying to ride a bicycle? Be watching an eggplant ride a bicycle. Facts. Was he dragging his leg again? He's been doing that a lot. And why does he need like monthly, tests? Why does he need the monthly cognitive tests? Why does he keep needing the tests they give to stroke people? My wife's aunt died of Alzheimer's, and now her dad's girlfriend has Alzheimer's. And that's the test they give them to track how they're doing. And he has Sherwin-Williams house paint all over the back of his wrist, covering up those mark of the beast. Yeah, the bruising from all that vigorous handshaking he's doing. The man who is famously averse to shaking hands because he doesn't want to get diseased by the people. He's a germaphobe. He's a germaphobe with bruises from shaking too many hands. If I had $1 billion, I would at least hire a good makeup artist to hide my devil marks. It's like that. And why can't he afford a tailor? Why do all his suits look like they were designed by Frumpy McDumpy that were bought off the rack in the wrong size? Like, why can't he even afford a tailor to adjust his suits if he's a billionaire? Revival says, I'm too busy laughing to even have much to say. It's funny. Like, see, this is the problem with Donald Trump, is sometimes if you look at it, like there is a version of this that is the funniest movie ever made. Like going back to the Four Seasons thing with Rudy Giuliani sweating hair dye and all of that kind of nonsense. And then, like literally turning DC into a swamp and then hiring like Swamp Water Productions to, clean up the swamp water that he created. And then the guy, the Olympian guy who, is being charged with assaulting water. He was in, he had his court appearance today. Like, how do you charge somebody with touching water? They say he pulled up this thing violently. How he violently pulled up this tube, I don't know. He denies it. There's a woman that says she saw it and she's got it on film. I have a feeling that's not entirely accurate. The woman that, like the big witness is also a witness, was also works for that Veritas, Project Veritas. She was there filming something for Project Veritas. Project Veritas is anything but Veritas means truth. It's anything but truth. Should just be Project Liars. Anyway, her testimony isn't going to persuade a jury. CNN is MAGA light now. It's getting worse. Your liberal tears fuel me. Cry harder, please. Yeah, this is a typical MAGA response. Like when you've lost the argument, just say stuff. MAGA Tourette's. Media monopoly, Brett. Yes, that is actually a real concern, is the way that the media is owning more and more of, like a few people are owning more and more of the entire U.S. media. And so then it's like, okay, we need independent media. But independent, and just saying this, if you support independent media, if you rely on independent media, please pay for it Like the thing about independent media is those people still need to eat. I still need to eat, you know? So if you can, you know, then, you know, send bubbles or whatever it is they do on YouTube. But, yeah, if independent media is people that are left to their own resources, there's not like this big machine behind them to pay for investigations and whatnot. There's not a big machine behind them if they get prosecuted by the US government for saying something that Donald Trump doesn't like. Oh, somebody's saying that nobody's here. Shows how butthurt. I do not really see any tears coming out of my eyes. He says I'm crying. Yeah, he's crying, but I'm butthurt. Okay, Cope Harder. Okay. I don't know where you get that I'm crying. We are laughing and having a good time. Who is crying, Beth? It's just like, this is so weird. It's MAGA is like almost every discussion with the MAGA is like reminds me of the bully in kindergarten. You know, oh, what are you gonna do? You gonna cry? You gonna cry? You gonna cry? Oh, don't cry. Like, are you 5? Like, how are you? What do you do with your life when that's your mentality? Have you ever tried being an adult for a day? We are laughing hard and having a good time. Who is crying bad? Cope Harder. Oh yeah, and cope. That's another word. They love the word cope. What do you mean by cope? Cope with what? The way you guys coped while Joe Biden was president? Sitting there, let's go, Brandon. Oh, he's not a real president. He didn't really win. It's a doppelganger. It's not the real White House. Donald Trump is really the president, and he's running the country from a bunker. But except for the inflation part, that's all Joe Biden's fault, because Joe Biden is incompetent. But somehow he is a genius that managed to manipulate the outcome of the election while Donald Trump was president. And so he was running everything through the deep state, and he planted all these FBI agents in the crowd of people that Donald Trump sent there. And then they instigated this rebellion that would prevent Joe Biden from getting named president, because then it would make Donald Trump look bad. And you're telling me to cope? Like, you can't even form a coherent, cogent conspiracy theory. And I'm the one having trouble coping? Brett says, cope harder. You have to dig deeper in your MAGA response. I'm not down there yet. We'll see. I'm going to give it at least a 70% chance that eventually he's going to say something about TDS. How long before badass black? They always got these names too, right? Like badass. Oh yeah, I'm a badass. You can tell because my name is Badass. Like, what's that? The superhero movie with Nicolas Cage. Kick-Ass, right? And then, you know, like there's the one kid that I can't remember, but Badass is like a name that a kid would give themselves if they thought they were an imaginary superhero. I'm badass. Yeah. But he has little drawings of him as badass with his little badass costume on. I'll be just waiting here for Brett to do his thing. Trump also said he was the hottest thing on TikTok. Yeah, that was the one. Hottest thing on TikTok. And He's like, sometimes it's like he'll say something like that. This is not the first time he's called TikTok, Tic Tac. Tic Tac. I'm the hottest thing on Tic Tac. Oh. Trump likes to do that power play handshake thing. Oh, yeah, where he like shakes somebody and he's like sitting there trying to like get his elbow under there so he can get, he's got to prove he's got the more manly handshake. And it's like, dude, no matter what you do, your hands are still going to be like the size of a child's. You can't make your hands grow no matter how hard you try, Donald. You still are a tiny-handed man with a tiny, tiny brain. Trump likes to do that power play handshake thing of grabbing, yeah. Oh, yeah, he hasn't been doing that lately. He literally said Tic Tac twice. I haven't opened it. I'm on TikTok, but I haven't opened a Tic Tac account. Maybe I should open a Tic Tac account. That would be fresh. See what I did there? Manuel Marcon yanked Trump's wrist back so hard, I think he got bursitis in his elderly elbow. I thought Trump was going to get on his knees and open his mouth. That would be hilarious. I would love to see that. I would love to see Hillary Clinton had done that to him. Did you see the one fountain he has fixed and now it looks like somebody blew a head gasket? I have not seen that. Hi, Lord Leong Tat Quang, historian of the Black Clad Caste. Hi all. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. So yeah, I have not seen this fountain that he's fixed, but yeah, for him, the poop fountain with brown water, Trump turning some, I say he's like the British pronunciation of the S word is shite, right? Like they'll say shite or Irish or whatever. I call it the shitest touch. He's got the shitest touch. Everything he touches turns to shite. It's that specific shade of brown. There's this, just gonna skip over the weird non sequitur comments. Wait, where did MAGA Tears guy go? He made like 2 comments and then bailed. Did he leave? Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Revival. I wasn't expecting to actually get money, but I mean that in general too. Just like we need to support our independent streamers and media because we need to make a living too. And this takes time, this takes energy, this takes work. And if we want to rely on, if we want to have our independent media there, then we have to support our independent media. I love my pigeon, Laverna. I play guitar. Pigeons are delicious. All right, so Trump literally says everything I heard in junior high school, from the dumbest kid saying stupid poop and realizing it, followed by trying to cover it up. Brett, did you ever read the Encyclopedia Brown books? Donald Trump always reminds me of Bugs Meany. And his administration are what was his gang called? Hang on, Sam. The Tigers. In the Encyclopedia Brown books, the main antagonist was Bugs Meany. Like Bugs Meany was always the one that did it, and then he had his clubhouse, and then Encyclopedia Brown would go up there and he'd say, blah 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 blah, And then Bugs Meany would say, "Make like a tree and get out of here," or say some kind of mixed idiom. And then all the tigers would sit there and laugh at him. Oh, like he had just said the most brilliant thing ever. The whole, like, Donald Trump is Bugs Meany, and then his administration and Fox News and everybody, all his little sycophants are the tigers. Today's topic is we're pretty much just surfing today. We opened up talking about Mitch McConnell, but we've gone all over the place. We actually, so is Mitch McConnell alive? Who, like, let me know. Do you think Mitch McConnell is alive? Is he sort of alive? Is he brain dead? Is, where do you think he's at? Will we ever see Mitch McConnell make a public statement? Up in a I don't know what you're saying, Michael. There we go. We have the TDS comment. Different person. But eventually they always have to, when that there's this thing called Godwin's Law. And it was like Godwin said that eventually whoever the first one to bring up Nazis loses the argument, or the first person to accuse you of being a Nazi. Then after Trump happened, he wrote this back in the, like, Godwin's Law was a thing back in the 2000s. Then Trump started saying all this kind of actual Nazi nonsense. And so then people were like, Godwin's Law. And so then Godwin actually wrote an article for the New York Times. He wrote an op-ed saying, yeah, Godwin's Law doesn't apply if you're actually a Nazi. So Godwin's Law doesn't apply. Now we've got TDS. TDS is like, I can't defend what Trump is doing, so I'm just going to accuse you of having this made-up disease called TDS. The real derangement is defending Trump no matter what he does. Biden, so now we've got Biden was a Trojan horse, a puppet used by the radical left, whatever radical left means, we never know, because they painted him as a moderate. They painted him as a moderate. Who is they? Who is the radical left? What is this mysterious group that painted Biden as a moderate? Were they painting him as a moderate for, like, what has to be one of the longest political careers? Were they painting him as a moderate in the 70s? Like, who are they? When did they start doing this? What do you mean they painted him? Did he stand still and they painted him with brushes? Like, what do you mean they painted him as a moderate? Who did this? What mysterious group has this wonderful power that they can, like, have 60 years of painting him as something? Biden wasn't mentally up to the job, so powers in the rad left ran things using auto pen, whatever that means. I mean, this is right now, Donald Trump is talking about the Islamic Republic of Japan. Donald Trump is talking about TikTok. Donald Trump's the one that's trying to reinvent Washington, D.C. in his image. Donald Trump is the one that is sitting there starting wars with Iran. Donald Trump is the one that is jacking up random tariffs because he doesn't like the tone of somebody's voice. Donald Trump is the one that is saying affordability is a hoax. But sure, go ahead, talk about Joe Biden and made up conspiracy theories about how they painted him as a moderate so that the radical left, whoever they are, could, like, secretly run the government behind Joe Biden's, face or whatever. Yeah, you sound perfectly sane when you say stuff like that. Trump scares me, obvious reasons. I know, Justin. I know I can. I don't know what you can do. I'm not saying you can't. I just don't know what you mean. Michael is getting more. Well, Trump scares me, obvious reasons. That's the most rational thing he said. Now he's back. Focus, man. Now it's Taoism, man. I'm a jet then. It was real. Is this the gay channel? No. I don't have any problems with one. I don't know how to send you to one. Why are you so worked up, young man who really cares about these things? I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean? Why am I so worked up, young man? Like, can you guys like at least try to, if you're gonna do these rebuttal things, at least try to like be coherent? Because I don't know how to respond to you. What do you mean I'm worked up? What do you mean I'm so worked up? I'm 58. I don't think I really consider myself a young man. And who really cares about these things? A lot of people care about these things. If you don't care about these things, then go somewhere else. I don't know why you feel like you have to run around telling people that they can't talk about things you don't care about. Didn't realize you were the center of the universe and we were only able to talk about things that you cared about. Nah, I think you took a wrong turn looking for Grindr. Yeah, that must be. He's talking to the guy that was looking for the gay channel. I don't have any problem with gays. I some of my best friends are gay. Some of the most loving couples I know are gay. Never have had an issue with gays. But I'm not gay. You know, I don't have to like be gay or, you know, like hate gays. You be you. You go. You want to be you. You want to, you know, go be gay somewhere. Go ahead. I'm fine with that. I think you took a wrong turn looking for Grindr. Next time, go to the RNC. I wonder how many. Anyway, Patriot. Apparently, there's like a big link between Patriot Front and Grindr. Like, anyway. Technically, to MAGA, the American flag is the. Yeah. If they don't, I still can't get over that they were sitting there carrying the Confederate flag in their 4th of July protest. Brett is hilarious every day. He's just hilarious out loud today. Brett's got a good sense of humor. Boo-hoo, you poor thing, Trump. More insults from the playground. Never heard of you never heard of Encyclopedia Brown? Back in the 80s, I don't know, actually. I think the books were written before then, but I read them when I was a kid. Nowadays it would be Wikipedia Brown, but it was a book. Encyclopedia Brown was like this kid. He was like 12. And he was really, really smart. And he read all the encyclopedias cover for cover. And he had his little investigation agency. And he would go and he would, you know, like people would say, oh, somebody stole my bike or whatever. And he'd go and he'd figure out who stole the bike using his vast, literally encyclopedic knowledge of the world. It was a fun book. They were only like 80, 90 pages. They were short books for middle school. I think he's being kept alive by machines, and his wife intentionally left the country to avoid being able to pull the plug on those machines. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with all that. Like, people keep bringing up, where's your wife? I know, like, isn't it, to me, it seems kind of weird. Like, if you're on your deathbed and you're like, and your wife's like, I'm out of here. Like, you would think she would go from China to America, not from America to China. Oh, that's right. His wife can't be reached for comment. She's a bride. Hey, don't call her a bride. That's derogatory. All right, I'm sorry. My 50s pun there. I apologize for that one. Hey, Greyhound, how you doing? Got quite the palate there. He also said that American housing is a big yawn. Everything is a big yawn compared to the SAVE Act. Which it's looking more and more like that fortunately is not going to happen. And I think it's been almost like 17 minutes since he brought it up. So I think it's finally starting to register to him that it's not going to happen. Like now it's July, right? So you can't change election laws like that just months before the election. He's desperate to not get impeached again. And everybody knows, like the Republicans know he's going to get impeached again. Not because they know that the Democrats are just going to have these impeaching for political reasons. They know he's doing illegal stuff, right? Like nobody's sitting there trying to cover up that he's not actually like selling pardons to money launderers. They just don't have the guts to do it. And this is like there's starting to be a tiny bit of pushback from the Republicans in the Senate. And I think it's because one, maybe some of them like feel like this is their out. I think some of them realize they have elections and that they have to deal with. And none of them are doing it on principle, though. I'll say that. All the ones with principles have already left. I think some of them are just maybe switching on survival instincts. So, oh, by the way, we haven't talked about Ken Paxton. If anybody wants to talk about that. So Ken Paxton apparently has got tossed out of his house 2 years ago by his wife because he was cheating on his wife. So he hasn't been living in his home for 2 years. He's been living somewhere else. But he stayed registered as though he were still living in that house. And in Texas state law, that's illegal. And it's not just illegal by Texas state law. As the Texas Attorney General, he prosecuted that exact crime several times. There are people in jail right now for doing what Ken Paxton was doing. He considers himself the absolute champion against voter fraud. Like people that like there was a black woman that literally asked the state, am I allowed? She was a felon that was gotten out and she wasn't sure if she could vote or not. So she asked the state, am I allowed to vote? The state told her, yes, you can vote. So then she went and she voted, and then they prosecuted her for voting. And she said, but you said I'm allowed to vote. I asked. And then Ken Paxton's like, no, too bad. So sad. Guess I'll have to cry. And now she's back in jail. Even though she literally asked, can I vote? And they said yes. This is Texas for you, right? So I'm just wondering if Ken Paxton is going to prosecute himself, because he should. Yeah, so yeah, that's Donald Trump. Does not care about anybody but himself. Biden is pretty moderate. I think that people don't even know what moderate means anymore. Especially MAGA. They have no idea what moderate means. Moderate does not mean, like to them, moderate means I'm not killing 6 million Jews. We're just opening concentration camps. I find it ironic that MAGA still quotes the word TDS, even though the guy they tried to make it famous got arrested for soliciting a minor for prostitution. It makes sense. Senator Justin Eichhorn was arrested for soliciting a minor. He was the guy that tried to make TDS like an official thing. Can't have TDS without a deranged Trump. And see, the thing is once they start going on about TDS, like I can't even remember what we were talking about when he said TDS. They just it derails the actual conversation. I think we were talking about how Donald Trump is actually deranged at this point. Like, he's like a box of Lucky Charms without any of the marshmallow surprises at this point. The one asking about why the young man is worked up might have been the guy asking about this being the gay channel too. How much do you... Okay, so there's quotes. How much do you think of the financial solution of the American people when making these decisions? Oh, okay, so that's why. So somebody asked, how much do you think the real unemployed Brendan? Hi, Brendan. I think, is this your first time? At least I think it's your first time commenting. I don't remember seeing you before. Yeah, he quotes, how much do you think of the financial situation of the American people when making these decisions? And he says, not at all. Trump says, not at all. Words from the MAGA's beloved, all-knowing Cheeto. And this is the number one reason. Like, people make, they say, oh, that's why Trump won. Like, virtually anything. Like, it's almost as bad as TDS. Well, that's why Trump won. No, that's not why Trump won. Why Trump won is inflation was high for a year under Joe Biden, and it had nothing to do with Joe Biden. Inflation was high for a whole assortment of reasons. Maybe I shouldn't say it had nothing to do with Joe Biden, but only a small percentage of it had to do with Joe Biden. And that also had a lot to do with why the economy was able to recover so quickly. You don't have, like, if the economy wasn't recovering, you wouldn't have the inflation. So you can't sit there and blame Joe Biden for inflation and not give him credit for the recovery. But there were other reasons for inflation too, right? There was the war with Ukraine starting. And, excuse me, sorry. There was the war with Ukraine starting. There was during COVID, with the entire world not going anywhere, everybody kind of stopped, and that meant all spending slowed down. Then because spending slowed down, production slowed down. And then when things started picking up again, spending went up, but production had not yet gotten caught up. And in addition to that, there was all kinds of issues with the supply chain. So those two things already were compounding, we're already making, going to make inflation go up, no matter who was president. Didn't have anything to do with who was president. Then on top of that, there was the stimulus packages signed by both Trump and Biden. Like, both of them had stimmy checks, and they stimmied. That's what they're supposed to do. They got the jobs back up. A lot of people want to sit there and say those jobs were coming back anyway, except the jobs that were lost under Trump are not the first jobs that came back under Biden. I remember this because people kept complaining that nobody wanted their old jobs back. I went to Hardee's and I couldn't even get a roast beef because there was nobody working there, and there was just one person, and they were trying to run everything by themselves, and they were kind of stupid anyway. You know, and so you remember all those posts about how nobody wanted the jobs anymore? They're just sitting around collecting all their unemployment. Well, no, actually what happened is that Joe Biden had a bunch of money invested into tech jobs. So people were taking the tech jobs instead of the fast food jobs. And then that accelerated the economy. There was a CBO report from 2020 that said if we got unemployment down to 6% by 2024, we would be doing well. Joe Biden got it down to 4% by the end of the year, by the end of 2021. Unemployment under Joe Biden was one of the lowest of any president in history. And it's not all just the jobs coming back either. It was lower. Unemployment was lower under Joe Biden than before the pandemic. He brought back all of the jobs that were lost under Trump, and then they kept coming back. And then it's just gone stagnant since then. The job growth right now is about 1/10 under Trump than it was in 2024. If that. And the only job growth, the only place where there really is measurable job growth is in the health industry. And that's primarily in like nursing homes and places where people go when they get old. And that's just because people are getting old. It has nothing to do with the president. Sometimes people want to take things in the economy and connect them with who's president, even though it has nothing to do with who's president. Those jobs would be gained if Mickey Mouse was president, if Donald Trump was president, if I was president, if you were president, because the people are getting older. Doesn't have anything to do with who's president. Manufacturing jobs are down. There are fewer manufacturing jobs than there were before. So you can take all your stuff about that's why I voted for Trump. And no, that's not why you voted for Trump, because if it is, you would be mad. And that's why Trump won. No, Trump won because the media was lazy in how they interpreted and reported on what was happening with the economy. People just got frustrated with affordability and blamed it on Trump. Or blamed it on Biden. Now they're getting frustrated and they're blaming it on Trump. The difference is Trump actually imposed tariffs that caused it. Trump actually started a war that caused it. You can say that Trump did more to cause inflation under Joe Biden than Joe Biden did. MAGA trolls can't be coherent because English isn't their first language. They don't even live in the country. I don't want to go rushing to conclusions, but you might have a point. Get it? Russian to conclusions. I wish more people from the other side of things could actually engage in conversation instead of just coming in and saying we are crying and have TDS. I would love to have a real conversation. And, you know, like I know like Revival and Brett and those of you who have watched and participated. I honestly, every day I strive to have an intelligent conversation with a MAGA. Like, and it just doesn't happen. It's always just TDS, liberal tears, but Joe Biden. It's just like a daily engagement with MAGA Tourette's. It's always some insult. They just can't ask a real question or make a real statement. Every single time it's just accusation and then crash out with name calling. Every single time. Every single time. I would love to have a good faith debate with the MAGA. And I have heard other people that aren't MAGA articulate an honest, coherent ideology of the MAGAs more than I have ever heard MAGAs do it. Like I heard this black comedian. What is his name? Hang on a second. I'm going to see. What is his name? He's this black guy. No. I wish I could. Anyway, if I can think of his name, I'll let you know. But he's on a lot of these Facebook clips. Younger guy. He's like in his 30s, maybe. And he was talking about, you know, like the MAGAs and how he was calling Trump the Black Obama. And how MAGA is frustrated that they've got this, like, you know, there's always the black guy that, you know, in the movies or whatever, that's always presented on TV as he overcame all these obstacles to get to where he is. And he had, you know, like an abusive father and had all this, you know, Everybody, there's all this drug temptation and stuff he had to overcome, and he overcomes all those things and he thrives, and now he's successful. And that's a kind of stereotype that is, in one way, it ends up being negative to Black Americans, because it just assumes that, you don't have Black people that grow up in middle-class neighborhoods and grow up perfectly normal like white people do, right? But it also assumes there aren't white people that grow up poor, right? And have some of those same struggles. And so that's where there's this kind of frustration and this pushback against things like white privilege, because it's never really explained to them. Like things like DEI aren't actually explained to them. They are used as weapons to rile them up. And they're like, then that's why you hear them say things like, I work hard too. And it's like, yes, you do. And there's nothing wrong with being a tradesperson. Nobody thinks there is. This argument that people think there's something wrong with being a plumber, that is not a thing. Did you know that Kamala Harris wanted to make trade schools? She wanted to have government paid for trade school also. Like, nobody hates trades. That's like a MAGA myth. Because, and then it's like, then you're the real victim here. And that is the mentality, is that they have to go through the same struggle as, other poor people, but they also have to feel guilty about it because of white guilt. And they also have privilege because of white privilege. And, they have, if they do earn a job and get a job, and Black person's going to get it over them because of DEI, like, that's the universe that they've been presented. And their struggles are real. Like, they really do struggle the same as anybody else. The lie they've been told is that nobody believes that. The lie they've been told is that Democrats and liberals don't recognize that. Anyway, abroad is like calling someone a cow. But nobody really uses, yeah. Sorry, I that was like a Bob Hope pun. The Paxton thing is funny. Love the irony. Trump is tearing our nation apart. Whoops. I have tried calling my congressman, but in Arkansas, it's a moot point. They don't listen. I will vote. I'd crawl over broken glass to vote. But what else can we do? Protesting doesn't seem to help much. What's our next stop? Isn't it like, when you think about it, wasn't that long ago that the president of the United States was a Democrat from Arkansas, from Hope, Arkansas, no less. Trump is trying to fix what y'all Dems destroyed. Okay, what is he trying to fix? What did we destroy? And how is he trying to fix it? Like, this is like just one of those just yelling things out loud. Like, can you give me one example of a thing that Democrats destroyed, how we destroyed it, and how is he fixing it? Or is this just hurling out words that don't mean anything? Don't you find it ironic that MAGA is losing their mind over Graham Plattner while simultaneously embracing and protecting Trump and Paxton? I think, I was thinking about this. First of all, they're acting like somehow the Democrats are protecting Graham Plattner or something. I don't understand. The only one actually defending Plattner is Donald Trump. But yeah, I talked about the Plattner thing a little bit at the opening. But Plattner is stepping down, as he should. And you've got this weird thing from the right where they're like saying stuff about, the Democrats were okay with Plattner until he started, falling in the polls, and then they wanted to get rid of him. Well, he started falling in the polls because this stuff came out. And we want to get rid of him because the stuff came out. The only one that sabotaged Graham Plattner is Graham Plattner. But then it's like, let's compare Plattner. They always want to compare Plattner to like Matt Gaetz or something, as though Matt Gaetz wasn't in Congress for 2 years while all these allegations were going on about him. And then like there was that weird interview where he's with Tucker Carlson, and he's like, yeah, well, I was there with my 17-year-old girlfriend and we had dinner together. And Tucker Carlson's like, wait, I don't remember that. I don't know. Then he's like, even after the interview, he's like, I have no idea what he's talking about. This didn't happen. I haven't seen anybody run that fast since Josh Hawley ran on January 6th. So there was that whole thing. So then they investigate Matt Gaetz for 2 years. And then Donald Trump wants to make him attorney general. And so then they're like, no, we can't do that. And so now then Matt Gaetz steps down once they finish their report that's going to recommend they remove him, but they never release the report because he stepped down. Whatever Matt Gaetz did was so bad, they still don't want us to know what he did. But they were okay with it for 2 years. It was only once it was going to come out that they decided to do something against it, right? But Susan Collins voted to confirm Brett Kavanaugh after we knew he was a rapist. But somehow they're going to pretend they have the moral high ground here? How can you support Brett Kavanaugh and then condemn the Democrats for supporting Plattner when they're asking Plattner to step down and you're still supporting Brett Kavanaugh? I don't get it. I don't like you must have to like study cognitive dissonance in order to be a Republican. Like it's a skill. I'm in South Carolina. It's the same here. I'm in Lindsey Graham's district. I'm in Texas. We ought to have a worse senator runoff. Ted Cruz is so unpopular, even his own beard hates him. That's why it looks like it's always trying to escape. Stop making meth in your trailer. You have lost your mind. What specifically, Ryan? Let's talk about it. Ryan is Ryan's the one that said that Trump is trying to fix what the Dems destroyed, whatever that means. You bleeping delusional, you MAGA mush for brain. Oh, he's talking to the, wow. Oh, hey, so as long as we've got more like-minded commenters than typically here. If you haven't been here before, go ahead and click the thumbs up so that we can get the algorithm up so that we can like keep the MAGAs from taking over the channel. So if you don't mind, just give me a like and a subscribe there. It's hilarious because all you got mad at Hegseth and said he was a commie, and then you all support Graham Plattner. Make it make sense. Okay, Ryan, first of all, we never said Hegseth is a commie. We said he's a Nazi because he's a Nazi. Commies and Nazis are the opposite. Like the poem literally says, first they came for the commies. All right, so he's a Nazi. We call him a Nazi because he's a Nazi. And you defended him even though his own mother said that he was an abusive, that he abused women. You defended him. All right. Then you'll support Graham Plattner. No, we won't support Graham Plattner. That's why we asked him to step down. As soon as the allegations about Plattner came out, we said, no, step down. And he stepped down. So that's how it makes sense. We don't support people like Greg Plattner. You still support people like Pete Hegseth. I don't think you actually know what a commie actually is. What are you talking about, you moron? The Dems got him out of there. Trump won because Dems had wild ideas that most couldn't get behind. No. No, actually, that's quite the opposite. I made a video about what Harris actually wanted to do, and I had MAGAs coming on that video and commenting on, well, why isn't she talking about this? And she was talking about this, but the media wouldn't talk about what she wanted to do. I bet you cannot tell me a single thing that was on Kamala Harris's platform. I bet you don't know a single thing about it. I bet you cannot actually tell me one thing that was part of her platform. And if you do, it'll probably be something about transgender people, which, you know, go on. I challenge you. Tell me what she said, what she was running on that was so unpopular. Good. The reason the Dems lost, the reason Trump won was inflation, period. Biden got blamed for inflation, and then she was Biden adjacent, so it was her fault. Go to Fox where you can just fold your arms and nod your head. The job being back is not the same thing as unemployment. Yes, I agree. The jobs came actually before, the new jobs came before the old jobs. What happened is once people started taking up these other jobs that Biden created, then that created the demand for the other jobs to be filled. People were able to like start offering more money to work at Hardee's. Yeah, it's not though. Because the tech industry jobs were starting positions that didn't require lots of training. That was the beauty of it. And this is not a theoretical thing. This is like they track these things. This is not just like my hypothesis. This is what actually happened. And this is the other thing. Like if you tell MAGAs what happened and they weren't told that on Fox, then they assume A, you're either lying, or B, you're making it up, or C, you're wrong. They can't go, gee, I never heard that. Why don't I look it up and see if it's true? Like they cannot learn something that they were not taught by a Republican. Man, I do not envy anyone who takes it upon themselves to defend Biden or say something positive about him. Okay. What's so bad about Joe Biden? Like, what is wrong with defending Joe Biden? Joe Biden did a lot of good things. Like the idea that you feel like you have to just assail Joe Biden without any reason, just like that says more about you than it does about him. Okay, so then I got it. That's a simply not true. What is not simply not true? I don't know. I do not know of anything I have said that is simply not true. Saying something is simply not true does not make it not true. So please tell me what I said that is not true. Why try to litigate the effects of a global pandemic? Trump's disastrous COVID shutdown and the effects of that. You aren't going to sway anyone. I'm not really trying to sway anybody. I'm just trying to say what happened. Like that there was more than Joe Biden at play with the inflation in 2022 and 2023. Like I'm not trying. People can be persuaded or not persuaded. I'm just stating facts. It's up to people to believe. See, so like Boy Eats World here says LMA no, like that's that it's a comment on a YouTube channel. It's not an argument. But I can't get past the dementia thing. I don't believe a president should have dementia running the country. What about the one that called Zelensky Putin yesterday, or talked about how he's the most popular thing on TikTok, or the one that says that affordability is a hoax? What about the one that can't stay awake during the NATO meeting that he's at? What about him? Joe Biden was never diagnosed with dementia. That's just all a right-wing talking point. It's a thing the right wing made up. Do you have any medical proof, any record, any diagnosis from an actual physician that actually analyzed Joe Biden that says he has dementia? Or are you just regurgitating things that you heard on Fox News from such experts as Jesse the Toilet Waters? Michael says, wrong, sir. So are you convinced that everything Trump claims is true? Good question. Yay, Trump. Trump 2-3, next president ever. Like the best president ever. He says next president ever, text to speech or speech to text. What did he do that's bigger than freeing the slaves? Can you tell me that? What makes him the best president ever? Shouldn't he like have some great accomplishment like freeing the slaves? Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. So what did he do that's better than ending slavery? Please tell me, elaborate. Tell me what makes him the best president ever. FDR stopped the Nazis. What did he do that's better than stopping the Nazis? Other than maybe revive them. I let you type it a few times till you got it right. I felt so bad. I wanted to make you feel you were doing well. That was nice of you. Sorry, I had to delete it. It was just stupid. Next time you have a thought, just let it go. It's okay. It's okay. We won't think less of you. I'm trying to eat. Slow down. Stop making me laugh. Hello by Michael Jackson. You grow up in a strict household. His parents were Jehovah's Witnesses when he became famous. Okay. For every person who makes a living sitting behind a desk, someone had to build that chair and desk. Right. Nobody's against either one. I don't know. When did that become a competition? Oh, you remember me. That's my favorite one, when MAGA comes in the channel and says, get a job. Meanwhile, they spend their days trolling endlessly on countless YouTube live streams. That's just it. The left says he should step down, as he should. But if he was Trump, MAGA would defend him with life and try to normalize his assaults. Can you, I'm just, imagine if Joe Biden had referred to the Islamic Republic of Japan in a NATO conference and referred to Zelensky as President Putin. Like, what would the reaction be? I don't think it would be the same from the right. I have 20 minutes. Atlas Shrugged, one of the worst books ever published in the history of mankind. Kamala was too moderate for my preference, and it was disappointing that we didn't get an actual primary. But she didn't have bad policies or anything like that. There's some of her ideas were really good, and I like the whole thing about having daycare workers, or paying like the women that have to quit their jobs to take care of their parents and their children at the same time. They're called sandwich moms. She wanted to make them so that they could collect a pay for Social Security, because it's cheaper than sending parents to go live in nursing homes. And so it's better for the budget, it's better for the family, and it's better for the senior citizens if they can move into the homes with their children, and their grown children, their adult children can help take care of them, because they're not like, they're just, getting older. They're not invalids or anything. And it just helps the family be able to pay for the people that are living in their homes and helped compensate for the lost work. I just thought that was a great idea. I still wish we could do that. That was a good idea. Nobody discussed that policy. I only had one person that discussed that policy, and he has he specializes in the finances of healthcare, and he loved that idea. Like, that's his job. If anything, I would like to see her actually have the chance to run for real on her own. And the whole thing with the primary thing is like, what could you do at that point? Like, it's the same thing with Plattner right now. What can you do? You've got a problem. You have to solve it. There's no perfect solution. You don't have time to, run a complete new primary election. So you got to do something. I don't like her actions with the people as far as prosecuting. Some of that was she was the district attorney and she had to follow the law. But anyway, but that goes for all the people, even district attorneys during election cycles. They do some very shady illegal things to get more convictions to look good. That's every city in America. And sadly, maybe we can get past this, but maybe we could stop looking at the success of a DA as being, how many drug convictions they get. I would prefer someone. Joe Biden, if he has dementia, at least he wasn't evil with dementia. Like, his dementia didn't have him starting arbitrary wars the way Trump's dementia is. But Joe Biden was sharper than this thing is that's running the country right now. Joe Biden didn't run around talking about how he was the most popular person on TikTok. He may not have dementia, but he can't put a sentence together. He's a moron. Trump invented peanut butter and electricity. It's funny when because Donald Trump has said some things that are somewhat less than cogent. Is that an understatement? MAGA needs to watch other news outlets. They literally think if another news outlet is reporting something, it's not true. Like, they use that as an argument. Where'd you get that? CNN? Like, are you saying that if CNN said Donald Trump won the election, that he didn't win the election? Diversity, their media consumption. I recently saw a news article interviewing former MAGA that saw actual real footage from January 6 years later and did not know what really happened and gave up being MAGA after they saw the truth. What Fox News does is criminal in my mind. Yeah, I saw some of that, like where they really do not know some things that the rest of the world knows. They're like, what about, the FBI was sitting there opening the doors for them? And it's like, yeah, that was like 3 hours into it. And it's like, they literally do not know that. They don't know about the Green Bay Sweep. Trump invented slavery just to design and utilize the Underground Railroad. I don't think he's that old. Try to grow up in the next 5 minutes. And TikTok as Tic-Tac. Kelly, have you watched The Necessary Conversation? No, I haven't. I need to watch that. I should just put it on my TV while I'm doing other stuff instead of MSNBC and see how I like that. Liberal siblings, MAGA parents. I'll try watching it today. Politics has driven me crazy. Trump, baby. MAGA is a cult and 38% being in it believe America is doomed. Stop watching CNN fake news. Who says that? I said I don't even watch CNN. What is that? What does CNN have to do with anything? Like, we're talking about you right now, Tom. how come, maybe you can answer this. How come MAGA can't have a real conversation, can't have an adult conversation? Like, how come you can't talk about actual things? It's always got to be this. Stop watching CNN, TDS, Biden. Like, let me ask you this question. What do you think is the biggest issue with this country, and how is Donald Trump solving it? Can I ask you that? What do you think is the biggest issue facing the country, and what is Donald Trump doing to resolve it? U.S. capers stolen Ballard. Trump uses a diaper. Biden had diaper on. Okay, does how do you know that, and what is the relevance? Like, again, let's come back and have an adult conversation. Can you do that? Can you try that? Can you just set aside insults and have an honest, good faith, intelligent conversation based on facts? Nobody watches CNN. That's Maglite. I have not. I don't think I have watched CNN in over 20 years. Everything I know, I learned from South Park. South Park is probably better than CNN or Fox News, to be honest. I've actually seen you in many YouTube channels trolling. You don't have a job, do you? MAGA knows everything. They just don't care. Wave it around like they just don't. Can you keep a straight and coherent thought? It's just talking points and buzzwords. Here, you go around in circles. Well, I'm reading comments and I'm responding to people that keep. What would you like to talk about, Joseph? Can you tell me the answer to that question? What do you think is the biggest problem in the country, and how is Donald Trump resolving it? That's because trolls keep coming in and sidetracking. Hey, Gab. There's at least 30 messages you don't see that are held for review. You look young, 40, fit, strong. I think I'm fairly fit for my age. I'm 58, be 59 next month. Actually, in about 3 weeks. The biggest issue in America right now is public education. Okay, how is public education a big issue? Like, what is the issue with public education? Let's go somewhere with this. Let's see if we can develop something. I farted loud. Okay, so maybe this is an example of the kind of issues public education is. Some people can't seem to. Do I want world peace? I prefer world peace, yes. Absolutely not going to happen, though. I'm not quite sure. You know, do you want to, like, are you saying Donald Trump is helping with that or hurting with that? I think the biggest problem right now is Christian white nationalism. It'll take a generation to clean up that mess. But okay, even like with that, like, why is Christian white nationalism an issue? Like, what is, that's what I was trying to get at before. What is the appeal to some people to Christian/white nationalism? Because it seems like they feel like they're a victim of something, right? And is there a way to look at them and tap into, is there some honesty in that feeling? Is there a reason they feel that way that is an honest feeling? Like, that they've been set aside, that the today's politics don't recognize the struggle that they have, that even that Donald Trump's been able to tap into, that liberals tell them that you know, they need to feel guilty or whatever. Not saying that the liberals are actually feeling something, but they are actually doing what they're supposed to do, right? They're working hard. They're doing what they're supposed to do, but they're not getting ahead, and they're working just as hard, and they're being told that, you know, these black people are getting jobs that they should be getting because of DEI. And so then they get frustrated and they get angry. Like, why is the whole white nationalism, Christian nationalism, why is that appealing to so many of them? Because that would be the real issue. Like, what is the thing that appeals to them? And how can we address that thing? Is there, because that might be a real thing. Like, not that white people can't get ahead, but the middle class is getting restricted. The middle class is getting shut down. And our current politics don't give them a voice. And so when some kook like Donald Trump comes along and starts singing the song that they like, they migrate towards that song. The lack of quality of it is what created the mindsets of MAGA, of education. So you're talking about public education for like K through 12? So then, like, the issue would be like, why are we losing quality? One of the things I've looked at, if you want to look at the difference in scoring, and, you know, like, probably the biggest issue with education right now is probably not what you would think it is. It's phones. If you look back and what happened historically when our scores started to fall, it's when smartphones started becoming popular. And then in schools where they've taken away smartphones, scores start going back up. But there's also other things, how we finance it. A lot of schooling is based on local funding. So that means that if you live in a place, in an area that's impoverished, you're going to have less funding for your school. And then you've got, like vouchers, which take funding out of those schools that are already underfunded. So how do we fix it? Like, what is the problem? Is the problem funding? Or is it something else? Do I want to end racism? Yes, I want to end racism, but I don't want to just pretend that racism ended. I think that you have some people want to just say that if you like address racism, then that's being racist, right? But I say if you can't see racism, like if you can't see race, how can you see racism? This whole idea of being colorblind is actually just closing your eyes to the actual realities of racism. So yes, I want to end racism. But if you ask, do I want to end racism? Then you must acknowledge that racism currently exists. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it. Have a good one. That's a great question. Education has been industrialized so much that people can't get ahead. I think the most important issue is income inequality. It's the main source of discontent in the US. And I think this actually ties into a lot of the other things. And if you go back and you look at the last 40 years, you know what correlates the most with income inequality? Tax cuts. We always talk about tax and spend, tax and spend, tax and spend. And this idea of trickle down economics, that somehow the real problem with our country is that rich people don't have enough money because the poor people are hoarding it all. Like this is the cornerstone of the Republican philosophy for the last 40 years. While the people that pay for your Supreme Court justices and pay for your U.S. senators and pay for your U.S. congressmen and pay for the laws to be passed that make it so that they don't have to pay taxes and that reinforce the kind of ideology generation after generation now. We're actually on 3 generations of this idea that, somehow supply side economics. Is like, no, you know what we need? We need more taxes. We need to tax the wealthy. And whether that's a wealth tax or whatever, I think we do. We need to address income inequality. And I think that actually a lot of the MAGA frustration is over the I can't get ahead. But they're falling into the trap of believing what the rich people have told them. And I've recommended this book before. Go back, read a history book. It's called White Trash. And what is the name? I'll see if I can. It's called White Trash. The 400-year untold history of class in America. And hang on a second. I'm going to pop the link for it in the chat here. And this is an outstanding book. And it is a book about how basically America's history is a history of rich white people telling poor white people that the people of color are the ones that they have to watch out for. And and it goes through the whole history of back before slavery, when they told the indentured servants this, right? The Irish indentured servants, who were actually the slaves before they started importing the slaves. And then they, with the settlers, and then with the Civil War, they justified slavery by convincing poor white people that they were going to end up doing the slaves' work. And after the Reconstruction, and then they told people in the North that you're going to lose your jobs to the black people. Jim Crow. It's always been rich white people telling poor white people that they need to worry about the poor black people, otherwise they're going to be even poorer than the poor black people. That's our history. I know that MAGAs actually don't want to know what real history is. They just want to pretend like we are this noble, beautiful country that never had any racist elements to it. But yeah, racism runs deep through our country's veins. It's always been there. It's founded in it. It's part of our DNA. So somebody says, do you want to get rid of racism? Yes, but you get rid of it by you start to get rid of it by acknowledging it, by seeing just how entrenched it is. And even just like what I was talking about before, in terms of ways that we don't think of how it has its impact. Like with the struggle of a person that grows up without money, without a father. The person who grows up with their friends are dying of drug issues, and their friends are, in gangs or whatever. And then those people, they grow up, they go to college, they get a degree, and they become a job, and they become successful. And we think of those people as like that's the black story, but J.D. Vance told that story as the white man also. And that's why you have a lot of people that are MAGA. Because there are white people that also live that story, and they're told they don't live that story. But of course, J.D. Vance didn't live that story. I want to be clear on that. But that doesn't mean that white people don't grow up poor and overcome things. Things are complicated. Race is complicated. And we don't overcome it just by pretending it never happened. that racism never happened. We need to read our history, not ignore it. We need to implement anti-media misinformation campaign in public schools on a federal level. It is a crisis. What anti-media information? What even is anti-media misinformation campaign? What is, and how is it on public schools? And how do you, like, what does any of that mean? I'm sorry, I don't even know if I agree with what you're saying or not. I just don't even know what that means. Adding to my wish list. Yes, please read that book. There are a few books on racism that I think everybody should read. One is How to Be an Anti-Racist. One is White Trash, and one is White Rage. If you read those 3 books, you will have a fairly good grasp of what the issues with racism are and how we got here. And if you've never read How to Be an Anti-Racist, it's actually, you'd probably be surprised by some of the things that are in there. So what? I don't know. What do you mean, so what? The modern racial concept is an American phenomenon. Okay, so back until slavery pre-existed race. All right. Or pre-existed racism. And when I say racism, I don't mean racism as a different ethnicity. I mean racism as a pigmentation thing. Like thinking of race as a color did not exist before like the 1600s. It became a thing along with the sub-Saharan slave trade to justify what we were doing, because that, like, exporting people by the millions, like slavery had existed before, right? Did you know that the word Slavic actually comes from the same word? The Latin root of Slavic is Slavo. Slavo also means cattle. The Slavic people were literally named the slave race. Like the Romans enslaved so many of them that they were just the cattle people, and they had the rights of cattle. So it's, like slavery pre-existed racism. But race as a skin color, like that abstraction started with sub-Saharan slave trade. It was used to justify slavery the way that we were practicing. It was to export millions and millions of people. It had never existed on that scale before. And I can't think of them. There's a book. Again, I know I keep using scary words like book, but there's another. I'll have to look it up and try to remember. I read a book about it. It's really actually fascinating. They go through a lot of history, both immediately prior to the sub-Saharan trade, like in Shakespeare, there's like a character, like Othello, I think it was, that like nobody like really like there's a black guy in there that is still just treated like any royalty, right? Like he's not, oh, he's a black guy, we got to have a, he wasn't like the mandatory black character in a movie. Like he's just a character who is black. And so it goes through literature and explores how even like in literature, the black characters in literature transformed over like that 100-year time, and how blackness became a thing. It was, anyway, it's interesting. I know that MAGA doesn't like things like books and learning, but MAGA cult loons believe anyone who doesn't agree with their cult is a leftist. It's called. Yeah. JD Vance's story, like I said, it wasn't about JD Vance. Like JD Vance did not live that life of the story he wrote, but the story he wrote resonated with people who lived that life. Do you follow me? There are people that actually lived that life, and that story resonated within them because for them it is real. Racism to who? Be specific. I don't know why you're yelling at me or what you're asking. You're a joke. Okay, it's why you apostrophe are you? I don't understand what the joke is. I don't understand what you're angry about. For instance, Ben Shapiro in 2015 began misinformation that the left were Confederates. That is a flat out lie because he had no interest in expanding on what the Democratic platform of 1860. Yeah, when they sit there and they try to make it sound like this is what's called an equivocation fallacy, where you use a word that has different meanings interchangeably. And so you'll use it when it has one meaning, and then you'll use it in a different context, but with the same meaning, even though it's not understood to have the same meaning anymore. Like a Democrat today has nothing to do with a Democrat in 1860. But they'll use the word 1860 to say, well, the Democrats were the slave party. Yeah, those Democrats were the slave party. These Democrats are not the slave party. You're the ones that carried the Confederate flags in to Washington, D.C. on the 250th birthday of the country. The Democrats were conservatives, and they will commit that as a lie. The media spread this misinformation. We can't control media, nor would I want to. What we can do is combat in a domain the government can influence. What we can do is educate people with what is real, which is why the Trump administration is so vehement that we don't educate people. Hello. They said on YouTube last night, JD Vance wants to investigate why Wisconsin, our governor, doesn't want to report people on food stamps. JD Vance is, I don't like, JD Vance ranting about fraud while his boss is the biggest fraud in the history of the country is a joke. There is a small amount of fraud to do with food stamps. It is mostly not committed by the people that actually receive food stamps. And it's not called food stamps, it's called SNAP benefits. JD copied 8 Mile. These people, but actually 8 Miles is in a way a good example of, like, there are white people that grow up struggling. And then they're made to feel like their struggles aren't real because, you know, only black people can struggle. They're made to feel that way. I'm not saying that it's valid or that it's true. I'm just saying that they feel that way. And there's a reason they feel that way. And we need to address that reality. These people will contort themselves into every possible mental gymnastics to avoid accountability and excuse their hateful racism and enslavement past. Well, that's what I mean by anti-media misinformation content campaign. There's a desperate need for it. I think you make a good point. It is accurate to assume majority of MAGA voters are unreasonable or just persuaded until getting to know one. Sample for conservatives, liberals, and leftists. I am about to say a sentence that I never thought I would say, and you never thought you would hear. MAGAs are a lot like trans people. It really helps to talk to one, to understand where they're coming from, and to set aside all your concepts of why they are the way they are, why they think the way they think. A lot of MAGAs have actually gone through life experiences that have helped to shape them to be what they are. And it's helpful to learn why they are the way they are and what their experiences are that help shape them the way they are, instead of judging them for being the way they are. Because it's possible that their experiences are real and even their feelings are real, but their interpretation is off, and that their values that are off as a result of their interpretation being off, and their interpretation is off because you have people that do understand what they've gone through that are telling them lies, right? So the way to get back to them is not to, the way to reach them is not to call them a liar or a racist or a Nazi, or to the way to reach them is to reach them at the same place that Donald Trump reached them in the first place, which is to at least recognize the validity of their own struggle that they had. Right now, Generation X, my generation, is the first generation in American history that is not doing better than our parents. And we went to college. We did what we were supposed to do. We did all the things we were supposed to do. We're the first generation that is being left with the Reagan legacy to take care of. We're the generation that has to take care of the boomers. It's our parents that we have to take care of, right? And so there's this sense of unfairness that Gen X has that is real. And whether they interpret everything about it correctly is not 100% the point. Like, how can we reach people with their valid feelings and distinguish that from their invalid thoughts? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know. Sometimes I try to make sense on this show, and I don't know if I'm making sense. It makes sense up here, but I don't know if it makes sense when it comes out of here. So but that's the best way I can say it. Is there are like MAGAs, a lot of MAGAs, they didn't just wake up one day and decide to be racist. They woke up one day and got tired of being called racist because they wanted to make a living for their family. A special hello to all the miserable. And then I say, like, I don't know who Mario is or whatever, but like this is not a helpful thing, Mario. And we're trying to have a productive conversation. I'm sitting there sticking up for people like you. So, like, calling me dumb is not smart. Mario called ICE on his mother. So there's another ICE murder. I really wish ICE would stop murdering people. I saw so I was watching I was reading some comments on a Facebook post on this new murder, and the MAGAs were like, "Don't rush to conclusions. We need to hear both sides," as though this is like an anomaly, and we haven't had. And so the family is saying, "Can we see the footage?" This happened at like 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's not like the other ones where it was in broad daylight in the middle of a protest and there's like 27 different kinds of phone camera footage. So, all right. Somebody says, yes, you're articulating your take well. Conservatives' intentions might be it's mostly a gap of believed truths because of media divide. Right. Exactly. I think that there is, like there's political divide and media divide, and there are people that are more concerned that we fight one another than that we talk to one another. And that's why I've been trying to, on this show, agree with what the issues are, right? Like, can we all agree that the middle class is getting hosed? Whether you're white, black, brown, like right now, the middle class is getting hosed. You look at, we have a K-shaped economy. That means the top 20% is getting richer and the rest of the 80% are getting poorer. The people that have ACA supplements, their insurance is going to go up 17% next year for their premiums. Your premiums are going up 17% next year. Don't think for a minute that doesn't mean if you're not on ACA, your premiums aren't going up next year. Your premiums are going to get hit too. You're about to get hosed too. And if you have insurance through your employer and it's 100%, say goodbye to any raise you had, because they're paying more for your premium next year too. Everybody's premium is going up next year. And then Medicaid is getting cut. That's going to make it even worse. The middle class is getting hosed. I don't care if you're on ACA. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care who you voted for. If you're middle class, you're getting hosed. Those are the numbers. Back in 1980, the top 10%, or it was like, what was it, like the top 30% accounted for 30% or 50% of spending, something like that. Now it's the top 10% counts for 50% of spending. We're getting hosed. The middle class is getting hosed. You go to college, you go to trade school, you're getting hosed. It doesn't matter what you do. You're getting hosed. You're getting hosed by people that keep trying to convince you that taxing is evil so that rich people don't have to pay taxes. And rich people like Elon Musk can get billions and billions and billions of dollars from the government and make trillions of dollars off the government and then tell you that you're the problem. Or tell you that black people are the problem, or tell you that MAGAs are the problem. You know who's the problem? The billionaires that finance the politicians that make the laws. The billionaires who buy the Supreme Court justices that tell you that those laws are okay. How about we stop fighting each other and realize we're all in the same boat? We all have the same problems. I don't care who you are. You're middle class, you're worried about your health care. You're middle class, you're worried about whether you can even afford a hamburger tomorrow. Most of the country right now is like less than a few paychecks away from being homeless. And we're too busy yelling things like, but Joe Biden, to even have a conversation that's anywhere near productive. Can we at least agree on what the problems are? Can we grow up and act like adults as a nation and say, you know what? I don't want you to suffer. And I don't want to suffer. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care who you vote for. I want you to be allowed to vote. I don't think non-citizens should vote, but I think you should vote if you're a citizen. I don't care which way you vote. And you should feel the same way about me. We need to talk to each other and not past each other. That's the only way that we can come together as a nation and heal and stop healing Donald Trump or, you know, whatever the DNC is. We need productive conversations, not debates. Anyway, I hope at least my energy is coming across on how I feel about this. I don't want to hate MAGA, and I don't want MAGA to hate me. I want Americans to come together and make America an actual country that meets the dreams that we once had for it. Democrats are the reason we have rights in the workplace and overtime. No, I, in some sense, yes. I would say the working class is the reason we have rights in the workplace and overtime. And the Democratic Party, in a lot of ways, has abandoned unions. So we you know, like, that's how it got here, but that doesn't mean that's how we're currently here. Joe Biden abandoned the unions, the railroad union. You know, and you know, so you got Team Trump here. James, I hope you can join the conversation someday. And stop just slogan shouting. I hope that you have that ability to at least set aside just being partisan for the sake of being partisan long enough to at least try to be honest. Bernie Sanders was right all along. Wrong. Feel free to tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me what I'm wrong about. But can you at least do it with genuineness that I am speaking with? Can you be sincere? Can you be honest? Can you be forthright? Can you treat me like an actual human being instead of just, a Democrat or whatever? Donald Trump is stealing more from American taxpayers than anyone getting a bit of, from people that complain about, this black person might get a free soda. Like, that's your concern? Elon Musk has gotten $38 trillion from the U.S. government, and you're worried about somebody drinking a free Pepsi? And Donald Trump uses the Oval Office as his own personal cash machine. There used to be a TV show on BBC called Hustle. It's a good show if you never watch it. And they would tell you that any good con art, every good con, you watch the movie, every single show, it would start off with the key to the con was to always put in a little bit of your own money, right? Because then if you put in your own money, then people are like, well, this can't be a con. He's putting in his own money. So when Donald Trump sits there and talks about how he's not taking a paycheck that he doesn't need, that's you being conned. Understand that right. Donald Trump is a con artist, and if you don't see he's a con artist, then you are being conned. Donald Trump is, okay, he manipulates the market to his advantage. Yes, he does on a daily basis. He knows that the stock market will go up and down on his word. There are instances over and over again where he will buy stock, make a comment, make the stock go up, and then sell the stock. He's had more stock trades since and he's like, oh, I'm a businessman. He was never a stock trader before. He didn't make his money in stocks. But since he's been president, he's had over 1,000 times as many stock trades as Nancy Pelosi has had in her entire career. But you're all like, and that doesn't mean that she's never done anything corrupt. But if you think Nancy Pelosi is corrupt, Donald Trump's 1,000 times as corrupt. He's had over 25,000 stock trades in a year and a half. And he was never a stock person before that. And all these trades happen right before or after he announces things. He manipulates the stock market to his advantage, gives no bid contracts to friends. The Green Swamp Revival or whatever that company is. His family. He's made over $2 billion in a year and a half. His Peace Board, yeah. He's raking in money off of his so-called Peace Board. He's robbing all of us daily. No one is doing anything to stop him. He's going to bankrupt America like he has done his business. Would love more control of who runs for office rather than voting for the better of two crap candidates. Even getting rid of the two-party system would be nice. Okay, but how do we do that? And I get tired of, there's two bad candidates. Look, there's no perfect candidate. But acting like, Elon, that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are equally bad. They are not. Kamala Harris might be stale bread. Donald Trump's arsenic. If you have to choose between stale bread and arsenic, you're not going to go, well, I don't know. Bread's kind of stale. Either way, I'm not going to enjoy what I'm eating. Absolutely. This is what makes MAGA and the left so divided. The left is outraged by how he's grifting the country, while MAGA thinks it's all okay. MAGA thinks it's okay because he speaks to MAGA's discontent. They live vicariously through him. They feel like they own the libs when he gets rich, robbing the country. You mean you need to take that rant into a reel and post it, publish it? Okay, I'll do that, Mo. Thank you. I'm glad it was heard. We all know he's a crook. The perfect candidate wouldn't want the job. That's right. I'm not defending James Carville, but one of his best lines was somebody asked him if he was ever going to run for president, and he said, "I wouldn't want to live in a country that voted for me as president." So it's a good line. Okay, so anyway, I feel like the whole time I've been doing this program, I think I just figured out. I think I just got out what I've been trying to get out in the whole 2 years since I started this stream. So intermittently, it comes and goes. But anyway, so I think with that, I'll end on that. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good evening. I'll talk to you later.